My husband drained our daughter's college fund and vanished with his mistress. I was devastated until our 2-year-old smirked and said, "Mom, don't worry." I handled it. Days later, he called screaming after discovering. Mark was stuffing clothes into a suitcase when I walked into our bedroom. No explanation, no eye contact, just frantic packing like the house was on fire. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't even look up. What I should have done years ago. His words hit me with the force of a physical blow. 22 years of marriage, and this was how it ended? Him throwing shirts into luggage while I stood in my pajamas, completely blindsided. "Mark, stop." I grabbed his arm, but he shrugged me off like I was a stranger. "Talk to me. What's happening?" He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there terrified me. Nothing. No guilt, no sadness, no regret, just cold determination. "I'm leaving, Sarah. Today." Before we continue, I want to thank you for joining me and sharing stories about protecting our families. If you believe children deserve financial security, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more families who need to hear this. Now let's see what Emma discovered. The room spun around me. This couldn't be real. Yesterday we discussed Emma's college applications over dinner. Yesterday he kissed my forehead and said goodnight. Yesterday I was a wife, not whatever I was becoming in this moment. Is there someone else? The question fell out of my mouth before I could stop it. Mark paused, a dress shirt halfway into the suitcase. For just a second I thought I saw something flicker across his face, then it was gone. This isn't about anyone else. This is about me needing to breathe again. But I knew. The way he wouldn't look at me properly. The way his phone had been face down for months. The late meetings that ran later and later. I'd been pushing down these suspicions for so long that they'd become background noise, but now they screamed at me. "Where will you go?" My voice sounded small, pathetic. "I'll figure it out." He zipped the suitcase with finality. "I need you to transfer my half of the savings to my personal account." That's when the real panic set in. Money. Emma's college fund. Our joint accounts. Everything we'd built together. I ran downstairs, my bare feet slapping against the hardwood floors. Emma looked up from her cereal, concern creasing her 2-year-old face. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart. Dad's just going on a trip." The lie tasted bitter. I grabbed my laptop and logged into our bank account with shaking fingers. The page loaded, and I stared at the screen in disbelief. Our checking account showed $247.83. Our savings account showed $0. Emma's college fund, the one we'd been feeding for 12 years, the one that should have had $75,000 in it, showed $0. "No." The word came out as a whisper. "No, no, no." I refreshed the page. The numbers didn't change. I checked the transaction history. 3 days ago, while I was at my book club meeting, Mark had transferred everything. 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 Not just his half, not just our shared money, but Emma's future too. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called the bank, praying this was some kind of mistake. The customer service representative confirmed what I already knew but couldn't accept. Mark had full access to all accounts. The transfers were legitimate. "Mom?" Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "You're scaring me." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was still in her school uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, her backpack ready by the door. She had no idea that her father had just stolen her future and walked away. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Mark appeared, dragging his suitcase behind him. He walked past us like we were furniture heading straight for the front door. That's it. I found my voice, and it was stronger than I expected. 22 years and you're just walking away?" He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. "I left you a voicemail explaining everything. I don't want a voicemail. I want you to look at your daughter and explain why you're abandoning her." Emma stood up slowly from the breakfast table. She didn't cry, didn't run to him, didn't beg him to stay. She just watched him with those intelligent eyes that were so much like his. Mark glanced at Emma for maybe 3 seconds. "You'll understand when you're older," he said to her. Then he looked at me. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." The door closed behind him with a quiet click that somehow sounded louder than if he'd slammed it. Emma and I stood in the sudden silence of our kitchen. The coffee maker gurgled. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car engine started and pulled away. "Is he coming back?" Emma asked. I wanted to lie to protect her, to say that Daddy just needed some time, but looking at her face, I realized she already knew the answer. "I don't think so, baby." She nodded, processing this information the way she processed everything else in her life, with careful consideration. "Did he take our money?" The question caught me off guard. How could she know to ask that? "Some of it," I said carefully. "My college fund too?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Emma picked up her cereal bowl and walked it to the sink. She rinsed it out, dried it, and put it away in the cabinet. Then she turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before on her young face. "Mom, don't worry. I handled it." The words were so unexpected, so calmly delivered, that I almost laughed. Handled what? She was 12 years old. What could she possibly have handled? But something in her tone made me pause. There was no childish bravado, no empty comfort, just quiet confidence, like she knew something I didn't. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Emma picked up her backpack and headed toward the door. "I'll miss my bus if I don't leave now. We'll talk after school, okay?" And then she was gone, leaving me alone in a house that suddenly felt enormous and empty, with questions I couldn't answer and a future I couldn't see. The house felt different that first week without Mark. Not just empty, but watchful somehow. I found myself crying at random moments, folding his abandoned laundry, seeing his coffee mug still in the dishwasher, hearing Emma's alarm clock through the walls each morning. But Emma? She moved through our shattered world like nothing had changed. Every morning at 7:15, she'd appear in the kitchen, fully dressed, backpack organized, lunch packed. She'd kiss my cheek and say, "Have a good day, Mom," in the same cheerful tone she'd used when we were still a complete family. It was unsettling. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I asked her one morning, catching her wrist gently as she headed for the door. She looked at me with those serious dark eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. Are you?" I wasn't fine. I was falling apart piece by piece, but I couldn't tell her that. "Just checking on you." "I know." He squeezed my hand. "But I'm really okay." That evening, I decided to call my sister Janet for advice. As I dialed, I could hear Emma upstairs in her room. The sound drifted down through the floorboards, rapid clicking like she was typing frantically. I assumed she was chatting with friends about the situation, maybe processing her feelings online the way kids do now. "Sarah? How are you holding up?" Janet's voice was warm with concern. "I don't know," I admitted, sinking onto the couch. "Emma's being so strong, but I'm worried she's bottling everything up." She hasn't cried once. Some kids process differently. "Remember when Dad left? You cried for weeks, but I got angry and broke Mom's favorite vase." The clicking upstairs stopped suddenly, then resumed with even more intensity. "What's that sound?" Janet asked. "Emma's on her computer. Probably homework or games." But even as I said it, something nagged at me. The rhythm was too consistent, too purposeful for games. After I hung up with Janet, I made Emma's favorite dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup. I knocked on her door around 6:3. "Come in," she called. I pushed the door open, carrying her dinner tray. Emma was sitting at her desk, her laptop screen angled away from me. She closed it quickly when I entered. "Brought you some food, honey." "Thanks, Mom." She took the tray without making eye contact. "You can set it on my nightstand." As I placed the tray down, I glanced at her desk. Scattered papers, her school planner, a few textbooks. Nothing unusual. But there was something deliberate about how she'd positioned everything, like she'd arranged it specifically for my visit. "What were you working on?" I asked casually. "History report on the Industrial Revolution." She opened her laptop again, but I caught a glimpse of the screen before she minimized whatever she'd been viewing. It looked like an email program, not a school document. "Need any help? I'm good. Thanks for dinner." I was dismissed, politely but firmly. I kissed the top of her head and left, but the uneasy feeling lingered. Over the next few days, the pattern continued. Emma maintained her perfect routine while I spiraled deeper into confusion and grief. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning with panic attacks, checking our bank accounts obsessively, calling Mark's number just to hear his voicemail. Meanwhile, Emma would emerge each morning, looking rested and composed. The typing continued every night. Sometimes it went on until nearly midnight. Friday evening, I was putting away Emma's clean laundry when I saw it. A single sheet of paper on her desk, partially hidden under her science textbook. I shouldn't have looked, but something about the formatting caught my eye. It was a printed email thread. The names at the top made my blood freeze. Mark and Rebecca's. My hands shook as I pulled the paper out. The messages were dated from 3 weeks ago, before Mark left. They were discussing meeting times, hotel reservations, and something about handling Sarah when the time came. I sat down hard on Emma's bed, staring at the evidence in my hands. My 12-year-old daughter had somehow accessed her father's private emails. How was that even possible, Mom? Emma's voice from the doorway made me jump. She stood there holding her empty dinner plate, looking at me with those calm, assessing eyes. No panic, no embarrassment at being caught, just quiet observation. Emma, where did this come from? She set her plate down and closed her bedroom door behind her. Dad's not very good with passwords. How did you... I started, then stopped. How long have you known? About Rebecca? 6 weeks. About the money? I figured that out the day before he left. 6 weeks. While I'd been blissfully unaware, my child had been living with this knowledge. I felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Emma sat beside me on the bed, suddenly looking more like the 12-year-old she actually was. I wanted to be sure. And I wanted to figure out what to do about it. Honey, this isn't your responsibility. Yes, it is. Her voice was firm. He stole my college fund. He lied to both of us. Someone had to do something. I looked around her room with new eyes. Everything seemed different now. Her organized desk, her careful routine, her unnatural calm. What else do you know? Emma got up and pulled a spiral notebook from under her mattress. She handed it to me without hesitation. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, printed screenshots, diagrams I couldn't understand, and lists of numbers that might have been phone numbers or account information. Emma, what is all this? Research. She sat back down beside me. Dad thinks he's smart, but he's careless. He uses the same password for everything. He doesn't clear his browser history. He doesn't even log out of his accounts when he's done. I flipped through page after page of meticulous documentation. Financial records, text message, screenshots, what looked like travel itineraries. My daughter had been conducting surveillance on her own father. I struggled for words. This is incredible and terrifying. I learned most of it from YouTube tutorials. Computer security is really interesting once you understand the basics. Emma, this kind of thing, hacking into someone's accounts, it's not legal. She looked at me with an expression far too mature for her age. Neither is stealing $75,000 from your daughter's college fund. The matter-of-fact way she said it sent chills down my spine. This wasn't my little girl anymore. This was someone I'd never met before. Someone calculating and focused and completely unafraid. What are you planning to do with all this information? Emma took the notebook back and closed it carefully. I'm still working on that part, but don't worry, Mom. I've got this handled. There was that phrase again, the same words she'd said that morning when her father walked out of our lives. But now they carried a weight that made me realize I might not know my own daughter at all. Show me everything, I said, my voice barely steady. Emma hesitated for the first time since this nightmare began. Mom, some of it's pretty bad. Show me. She opened her laptop and pulled up a folder labeled Science Fair Project. Inside were dozens of subfolders with names like financial records, communication logs, and identity theft evidence. My stomach clenched. It started with Dad's second phone, Emma said, clicking on a folder. He thought he hid it in his closet, but I saw him checking it one night when he thought I was asleep. The screen filled with photographs Emma had taken through Mark's bedroom door, blurry but clear enough to show him texting on a device I'd never seen before. I waited until he left it charging in his office one day. I only had maybe 10 minutes, but I got into his messages. Emma's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. That's how I found Rebecca. A new window opened filled with screenshot after screenshot of text conversations. My husband's words to another woman, talking about me like I was an obstacle to remove. Planning their future together. Discussing how to handle the Sarah situation without losing too much money in a divorce. I felt like I might throw up. But it gets worse, Mom. Emma clicked to another folder. Rebecca Sterling works at Dad's accounting firm. She handles client investments and trust accounts. You found out where she works? I found out everything about her. Address, family, work history, credit score, even her Netflix password. Emma's voice was matter of fact, like she was discussing a school assignment. She's been stealing money from her clients for 2 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank transfer records showing money moving from client accounts into personal ones. Fake invoices for services never provided. Investment statements that didn't match actual account balances. Emma had somehow accessed Rebecca's work computer and documented everything. Emma, how did you even get into their systems? Rebecca uses the same password for everything. Sterling2011. That's her last name and the year she graduated college. I found that information on her LinkedIn profile. Emma shrugged like it was obvious. People are really predictable with passwords. I stared at my daughter, this stranger sitting beside me. But how did you learn to do all this? YouTube mostly. And some computer programming forums. There's a lot of information out there if you know how to look for it. She clicked to yet another folder, and my world tilted sideways again. Bank statements with my name on them, but accounts I'd never opened. Credit applications filed under Emma's social security number. Loan documents signed with forged signatures. Mom, Dad didn't just take our money. He's been using our identities to get loans. The $75,000 from my college fund? That was just the down payment on a $200,000 loan he took out in my name. What? The word came out as a whisper. He and Rebecca are buying a house together in Florida. They used my credit history and your employment information to secure the mortgage. Emma's jaw tightened. They were going to disappear and leave us holding the debt. The room spun around me. Identity theft. Fraud. My husband hadn't just abandoned us. He'd systematically destroyed our financial future to build a new life with his mistress. But here's the thing, Emma continued, and I heard something new in her voice, something cold and satisfied. I caught them before they could complete the purchase. She opened another folder labeled Countermeasures. Inside were dozens of official-looking documents, fraud reports filed with credit agencies, complaints submitted to banking authorities, anonymous tips sent to Rebecca's employer. I've been working on this for 3 weeks, Emma explained. I documented everything first, then I started dismantling their plans piece by piece. What do you mean? Well, Rebecca got suspended from work yesterday. Her boss received an anonymous email with all the evidence of her embezzlement. Her clients are pulling their accounts. The state board is launching an investigation. My mouth fell open. You did that. She stole money from elderly people saving for retirement, Mom. She deserved it. Emma's voice was steady, righteous. And that's just the beginning. She showed me more files. Credit agencies had frozen the fraudulent accounts opened in our names. The mortgage application for the Florida house had been flagged and denied. Rebecca's landlord had received a tip about illegal activity in her apartment and started eviction proceedings. But the best part, Emma said, clicking to a final folder, is what I sent to her father. Her father, Dr. Robert Sterling. He's a prominent surgeon who's very concerned about his family's reputation. He received a very detailed letter about his daughter's criminal activities, along with copies of all the evidence. I felt dizzy. Emma, what have you done? I've protected us. She closed the laptop and looked at me directly. Dad thought he could steal from us and walk away clean. He thought we'd be too broken and stupid to fight back. He was wrong. But, sweetheart, this kind of thing, going after people like this, it's dangerous. More dangerous than letting them destroy our lives? Emma stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the darkening sky. Mom, they didn't just take our money. They took my future. They took your security. They took everything we worked for and gave it to themselves. I watched my 2-year-old daughter, her small frame silhouetted against the window, and realized she was right. While I'd been crying and calling Mark's voicemail, begging him to come home, Emma had been fighting for us. What happens now? I asked. Emma turned back to me, and in the dim light of her room, she looked older than her years. Now we wait. Rebecca's world is falling apart, and she doesn't even know why yet. When Dad realizes what's happening, he'll panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. How can you be so calm about all this? Because I'm not the one who has to be scared anymore, she said simply. They are. That night, I lay awake thinking about the child sleeping down the hall. She'd saved us, but at what cost? What kind of person had my daughter become in the process? And more frightening still, what else was she capable of? Around midnight I heard it again. The soft clicking of computer keys, steady and determined. Emma was still working, still planning, still protecting us in ways I couldn't fully understand. I should have felt grateful. Instead, I felt afraid. The phone rang at exactly 2:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the kitchen washing lunch dishes when Mark's name flashed across the screen. My hands were still soapy when I fumbled for the phone, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. "Hello." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Sarah." Mark's voice was different. Strained, almost desperate. "We need to talk. Something very strange is happening." I dried my hands on a dish towel, glancing toward the living room where Emma was supposedly doing homework. "What kind of strange?" "My bank called this morning. All my accounts have been flagged for suspicious activity. They've frozen everything pending some kind of federal review." His words came out, rushed, panicked. "And Rebecca?" "Sarah. Rebecca lost her job yesterday. Security escorted her out of the building." Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her school uniform. She walked calmly to the counter and poured herself a glass of water. But I noticed she was listening intently. "I don't understand what that has to do with me," I said to Mark. "It's too much of a coincidence. First, Rebecca gets fired for some bogus embezzlement claim. Now my finances are under investigation. Someone's targeting us, Sarah. Someone with serious technical skills." Emma set her glass down and moved to the kitchen table, opening her laptop with practiced ease. She typed something quickly and I saw her screen light up with what looked like multiple windows and data streams. "Who would do something like that?" I asked, though my stomach was already churning with suspicion. "That's what I'm trying to figure out. Rebecca thinks it might be someone from her office, maybe a coworker she rejected or—" Mark stopped talking suddenly. "What was that sound?" I looked at Emma. She'd clicked something on her laptop, and a soft chime had echoed through the phone connection. "What sound?" I asked. There was a beep, like someone just accessed my email. Mark's voice shifted to pure alarm. "Sarah, someone's in my computer right now. I can see my email opening and closing in real time. Someone's reading my messages while we're talking." Emma's fingers moved across her keyboard with the fluid precision of a concert pianist. Her screen showed what appeared to be email interfaces, financial documents, and streaming data. She was inside his system watching everything he did, reading everything he accessed. "Mark, maybe you should hang up and call your bank." "No, wait. I need to ask you something directly." His voice turned suspicious. "Sarah, did you hire someone? A private investigator or computer expert? Because if you did, you need to call them off right now. What they're doing is illegal." Emma looked up from her laptop and met my eyes. She gave me the slightest shake of her head, then returned to her screen. "I didn't hire anyone," I said truthfully. "Then who?" Mark's voice cut off, replaced by frantic typing sounds on his end. "Someone just sent an email from my account. To my boss. Sarah, they're impersonating me right now. What did the email say? I can't. I don't know. Everything's happening too fast." His breathing became audible through the phone. "They're in my social media accounts now. They're posting things. Financial documents. Private messages between me and Rebecca." Emma minimized one window and opened another. I caught a glimpse of what looked like social media profiles and document uploads before she angled the screen away from me. "Mark, you need to contact the police if someone's hacking your accounts." "You think I haven't tried?" "The police said that if the information being posted is true, then it's not harassment. It's whistleblowing. But how would anyone have access to true financial documents unless they were?" He stopped. "Unless they were inside my actual accounts." The realization was hitting him. Someone wasn't posting fake information about him. Someone was posting real evidence of his crimes. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. The money I took, I was planning to pay it back. Rebecca and I were going to make it work, and then I was going to quietly replace everything. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. But you did take it. Temporarily. As a loan. Rebecca had this investment opportunity that was guaranteed to double our money within 6 months." His voice was becoming more desperate with each word. "We were going to surprise you and Emma with even more money than what was originally there." Emma looked up from her laptop again, and I saw something in her expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but cold calculation. She was listening to her father spin lies about stealing from his own family, and she was taking notes. "Mark, that's not how loans work. You can't take someone else's money without their permission and call it a loan. You don't understand the pressure I was under." Rebecca's father was threatening to cut her off financially if she didn't prove she could support herself. She needed that money to buy the house, to show him she was serious about building a future. "So, you stole our daughter's college fund to impress your girlfriend's father?" "It wasn't stealing," Mark's voice cracked. "It was an investment in all of our futures. Rebecca's family has connections. Once her father accepted her choices, he was going to help me start my own firm. We would have been wealthy, Sarah. Wealthy enough to pay for Emma's college 10 times over." Emma closed her laptop with a quiet snap and stood up. She walked to where I was standing and gently took the phone from my hand. "Hi, Dad." Her voice was perfectly calm. "Emma." "Sweetheart, thank God." "Emma, someone is doing terrible things to me and Rebecca. They're making us look like criminals. You have to tell your mother that I would never steal from you, never. But you did steal from me." Emma's tone remained conversational, like she was discussing the weather. "You took $75,000 from my college account and used it as collateral for a mortgage application in Florida." The silence on Mark's end stretched for nearly 10 seconds. "Emma, who told you that?" "Nobody told me. I found out myself, along with copies of the forged loan documents where you used my social security number to secure additional credit." "That's impossible. You're 12 years old. You couldn't possibly understand." "I understand that you committed identity theft. I understand that Rebecca embezzled money from her clients. I understand that you both planned to disappear to Florida and leave Mom and me responsible for the debt you created." Emma listened to me very carefully. Adults sometimes make complicated financial decisions that children can't fully grasp. What looks wrong to you might actually be. "I have copies of everything, Dad. Every email between you and Rebecca, every forged document, every illegal transaction. I've been watching you for weeks." Mark's breathing became labored. "You've been watching me? Emma, what does that mean?" "It means I know about the second phone you thought you hid so well. I know about the fake investment accounts Rebecca created to hide the money she stole. I know about the house you tried to buy using my identity." Emma's voice never wavered. "And I know that when the money ran out and Rebecca got fired, she stopped returning your calls." "How could you possibly know about Rebecca not returning my calls?" "Because I'm monitoring all your communications. I've been watching both of you destroy yourselves piece by piece." Emma sat down at the kitchen table, still holding the phone with complete composure. "Rebecca blocked your number yesterday after her father cut her off financially. She's already started dating someone else." The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a sob and a scream. "Emma, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your father. I love you. I love your mother. I never meant for things to go this far. You chose her over us, Dad. You chose money over your family. You chose to steal my future to pay for your new life." Emma's voice remained steady, factual. "Actions have consequences. You taught me that when you walked out of our house with your suitcase. Emma, I'm begging you. Whatever you've done, whatever you know, please just stop. I have nothing left. I'm living in my car because I can't pass a credit check to rent an apartment. I can't get a job because every background check shows financial fraud flags. Please." Emma looked at me as she spoke her final words to her father. "You taught me something important, Dad. You taught me that the people who are supposed to protect you sometimes don't, so you have to protect yourself." And with that, she hung up the phone. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma set the phone on the counter and looked at me with those calm, serious eyes. "He won't call back," she said matter-of-factly. "How do you know?" "Because now he knows I'm watching, and he knows that every move he makes, I'll see coming." She picked up her laptop and headed toward her room. "I have homework to finish." I stood alone in my kitchen, finally understanding that my 2-year-old daughter had just systematically dismantled a grown man's entire life, and that he deserved every second of it. I stood in my kitchen long after Emma had disappeared into her room, staring at the phone in my hands. My daughter had just destroyed her father with the same calm precision most kids use to complete homework assignments. The silence felt heavy, almost suffocating. Part of me wanted to feel guilty. Part of me wanted to march into Emma's room and demand she undo whatever digital warfare she'd unleashed. But a larger part of me, a part one wasn't sure I recognized, felt fierce pride. My 1-2-year-old had protected us when I couldn't protect myself. The next morning, Emma appeared at breakfast, looking exactly like any other middle schooler getting ready for her day. She ate her cereal, checked her backpack, and kissed my cheek goodbye as if she hadn't spent the previous evening systematically destroying 2 adults' lives. "Emma, wait." I caught her arm gently as she headed for the door. "Are you okay?" She tilted her head, considering the question with that serious expression I'd grown to know so well. "I'm fine, Mom." "Why wouldn't I be? Because of what happened yesterday. With your father. What about it?" Her complete lack of emotional response unnerved me. "Honey, you just had a very intense conversation with Dad. It's normal to feel upset or confused, or, I'm not upset." Emma adjusted her backpack straps. "I'm relieved. Now he knows that I know what he did, and he knows there are consequences for stealing from his family. But don't you miss him? Even a little?" Emma paused at the front door, her hand on the doorknob. "I miss the dad I thought he was, but that person was never real, was he? He was just a character Dad played when it was convenient." The matter-of-fact way she analyzed her own feelings terrified me. Where was the anger, the hurt, the desperate hope that maybe Daddy would apologize and come home? "Emma, I think it would be good for you to talk to someone. A counselor who can help you work through these big emotions." "I'm not having big emotions, Mom. I'm having appropriate emotions." She opened the door. "But if it makes you feel better, I don't mind talking to someone." After Emma left for school, I called our pediatrician's office. Dr. Martinez recommended a child psychologist named Dr. Patricia Reeves, who specialized in family trauma and gifted children. Gifted children often process difficult situations differently than their peers, Dr. Martinez explained. They might intellectualize emotions rather than feeling them in traditional ways. Dr. Reeves could see Emma the following week, but in the meantime, I found myself studying my daughter like she was a puzzle I needed to solve. She maintained her normal routine: school, homework, helping with dinner. But there were subtle changes I hadn't noticed before. She'd taken over our household finances completely, creating detailed spreadsheets that tracked our reduced income and projected our expenses for the next year. She'd researched legal aid services and compiled a folder of information about divorce proceedings and asset recovery. "Mom, you need to file for divorce immediately," she told me one evening while I was paying bills at the kitchen table. "Every day you wait gives Dad more time to hide assets or create additional debt in your name. Emma, these are grown-up concerns. You don't need to worry about. Someone has to worry about them." She sat down across from me. "You're depressed, which is understandable but not productive right now." "I'm not depressed, so I can think clearly about what needs to happen next." Her clinical assessment of my mental state stung because it was completely accurate. I had been wallowing, hoping somehow this nightmare would resolve itself. Emma was the only one taking concrete steps to secure our future. Dr. Reeves's office was decorated in soothing blues and greens, with children's artwork covering one wall. I expected Emma to be nervous about her first therapy session, but she walked in like she was attending a business meeting. "Emma, I'm Dr. Reeves. Your mom thought it might be helpful for us to chat about some of the changes happening in your family." "That's fine. I understand this is probably mandatory after what I did to my father." Dr. Reeves blinked, clearly not expecting such directness from a 1-2-year-old. "Can you tell me about that?" For the next 45 minutes, Emma calmly explained the entire situation. She described discovering Mark's affair, documenting his financial crimes, and systematically dismantling his and Rebecca's lives. She spoke without visible emotion, presenting facts like she was giving a school presentation. "How did that make you feel?" Dr. Reeves asked. "Satisfied," Emma replied immediately. "He stole from me, so I made sure there were consequences. It felt like justice. Do you ever feel sad about your father leaving? I feel sad that he chose to become the kind of person who steals from his own child. But I don't feel sad about him facing the results of that choice." When the session ended, Dr. Reeves asked to speak with me privately while Emma waited in the lobby. "Mrs. Patterson, your daughter is remarkable," Dr. Reeves began carefully. "Her cognitive abilities are exceptional, and her emotional resilience is extraordinary. But is it healthy? Should a child be able to do what she did without feeling guilty or traumatized? Trauma responses vary widely, especially in highly intelligent children. Emma has experienced significant betrayal and abandonment, but she's processed it in a remarkably functional way. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Some children fall apart when faced with this level of family dysfunction. Others, particularly those with strong analytical skills, respond by taking control of their environment. So she's okay? She's more than okay. She's adapted. The question is whether you're comfortable with who she's becoming. That evening, I found Emma in her room working on her laptop again. But when I looked over her shoulder, it wasn't surveillance software or hacking tools on her screen. It was a Word document titled Digital Safety for Families: Warning Signs and Protection Strategies. What's this, sweetheart? I'm writing a guide for other kids whose parents might be stealing from them, and for adults who don't know how to spot financial fraud. She scrolled down to show me detailed sections about password security, recognizing forged documents, and protecting personal information. The document was sophisticated, clearly written, and incredibly thorough. My 3-year-old daughter was turning her traumatic experience into educational content that could help other families. Emma, this is incredible. Where did you learn to write like this? I've been researching family financial fraud for weeks. You'd be surprised how common it is. She saved the document. Mrs. Henderson at school asked me to present this to the PTA next month. Apparently, 3 other families in our district have discovered similar problems with missing money and identity theft. I stared at the screen, reading her clear, practical advice. She wasn't just surviving what Mark had done to us. She was transforming it into something that could protect others. How do you feel about presenting this to adults? Nervous, but excited. Most people don't understand how easy it is to protect yourself if you just know what to look for. She closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you ashamed of what I did to Dad? The question caught me completely off guard. Ashamed? Emma, you saved us. You protected our family when I couldn't. But you've been looking at me differently lately. Like you're worried about me. I sat on her bed, choosing my words carefully. I'm not worried about what you did, sweetheart. I'm worried about what it cost you. What you accomplished was amazing. But it required you to become someone harder than any child should have to be. Do you think I'm damaged? No. The answer came immediately, and with complete certainty. I think you're stronger than I ever imagined possible. But I also think that strength came with a price, and I want to make sure you're okay with who you're becoming. Emma leaned against me. And for a moment she felt like my little girl again instead of the formidable person she'd become. I don't feel damaged, Mom. I feel like I finally understand how the world really works. And understanding something means you can protect yourself from it. What about protecting others? That's why I'm writing the guide. If I can help other families avoid what we went through, then maybe something good came from Dad's choices. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked one final question that broke my heart and filled me with pride simultaneously. Do you think Dad ever really loved us? I think he loved the idea of us, but when loving us became inconvenient, he chose himself instead. That's what I thought too. She pulled her stuffed elephant closer. Good night, Mom. Good night, sweetheart. I turned off her light and stood in the hallway, processing everything Dr. Reeves had said. Maybe Emma wasn't broken. Maybe she was exactly what she needed to be to thrive in a world where people you trust could betray you completely. Maybe I wasn't raising a damaged child. Maybe I was raising an extraordinary young woman who would use her strength to protect others the way she'd protected us. 6 months later, I was stacking books in the children's section of Millbrook Community Library when my supervisor approached with a nervous expression. Sarah, there's a reporter here asking about your daughter, Linda whispered, glancing toward the front desk where a woman in a pressed suit waited with a notepad. My heart stopped. What kind of reporter? She says she's investigating the Rebecca Sterling embezzlement case. Apparently, someone tipped her off that the anonymous whistleblower might be connected to our area. I walked to the front desk on unsteady legs. The reporter smiled professionally and extended her hand. Mrs. Patterson, I'm Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. I'm doing a follow-up story on the Sterling financial fraud scandal. I understand your ex-husband was involved. I can't comment on that, I said quickly. The story has gained national attention. Rebecca Sterling is facing federal charges, and several other victims have come forward. Someone was incredibly thorough in documenting the crimes. We'd love to thank whoever provided the evidence. After she left, I drove home to our small apartment across town, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework when I walked in. There was a reporter at the library today asking about the Rebecca Sterling case. I said carefully. Emma didn't look up from her math worksheet. They'll never connect it to me. I use 7 different proxy servers and cryptocurrency payments for all the anonymous accounts. Emma, it's fine, Mom, she's good. The more attention the case gets, the more other victims will come forward. She finished a problem and moved to the next one. I've been monitoring the news coverage. 12 other families have contacted authorities about Rebecca's fraudulent investment schemes. The casual way she discussed her nationwide impact on financial crime investigations still caught me off guard. My daughter had triggered a federal investigation that was now protecting dozens of families, and she talked about it like a successful science project. 3 weeks later, Emma received an email that changed everything. A technology company called Secure Family had somehow identified her real identity and wanted to offer her a position in their youth development program. They're offering me a full scholarship to any college I want, plus a guaranteed job after graduation, Emma explained, showing me the official letter on her laptop. Salary would start at $120,000 a year. I stared at the numbers on the screen. Emma, this is incredible. This could set you up for life. I know. She closed the laptop without hesitation. I'm turning it down. What? Why? Because they want to own what I create. They want me to build security software that makes money off people's fear instead of actually protecting them. She stood up and walked to the window of our small living room. Besides, I already have a job. What do you mean? Emma pulled out a business card from her backpack. It looked professionally designed. E. Patterson Family Financial Protection Consultant. I've been helping families secure their finances and recover from fraud for the past month. I have 6 regular clients now, and they pay me $75 an hour for consultations. I took the card, studying the crisp design and professional contact information. Emma, you're 13 years old. How are you running a consulting business? Age doesn't matter when you're working online. My clients think I'm an adult cybersecurity expert with a specialty in family protection. She pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop showing her income. I've made enough to replace most of my college fund already. The numbers were staggering. In just 1 month, my teenage daughter had earned more than I made in 3 months at the library. What kind of services do you provide? I help families identify financial red flags, secure their digital accounts, and recover stolen money. Last week, I helped a family in Ohio get back $30,000 their son had stolen from his grandmother's retirement account. Is it legal? Everything I do is completely legal. I teach people how to protect themselves and help them file appropriate reports with authorities when crimes have been committed. Emma minimized the spreadsheet. I'm also speaking at a cybersecurity conference next month. As yourself, as Dr. E. Patterson, Family Protection Specialist. I'll participate via encrypted video conference so my age won't be an issue. That evening, I found myself reading about the Rebecca Sterling case online. The story had indeed gone viral, shared across multiple social media platforms, and covered by national news outlets. The comments ranged from outrage about the fraud to praise for the anonymous hero who'd exposed the scheme. One comment thread caught my attention. Dozens of people sharing their own experiences with family financial betrayal. Parents stealing from children, spouses hiding assets, relatives exploiting elderly family members. Emma's actions had opened a floodgate of similar stories. Nobody suspected the whistleblower was a 1-2-year-old girl. 2 months into our new life, Emma asked me a question that stopped me cold. Mom, do you think Dad ever regrets what he did? We were washing dishes together after dinner and I nearly dropped the plate I was holding. It was the first time she'd mentioned Mark in weeks. I don't know, sweetheart. Why do you ask? I've been monitoring his social media accounts. He posts about starting over and making better choices, but he never mentions us. She dried a glass with careful precision. I was wondering if he realizes what he lost. What do you think? Emma considered this for a long moment. I think regret is just feeling sorry for yourself when you face consequences. It's not the same as understanding why what you did was wrong. Do you want him to regret it? No. I want him to understand it. But I don't think he's capable of that level of self-awareness. She folded the dish towel neatly and hung it on its hook. The conversation was clearly over for her, filed away like everything else related to her father. Spring arrived with a warmth that felt like hope. Emma's consulting business continued to grow, and she'd started creating free educational resources for families to protect themselves from financial fraud. She developed security checklists, warning sign guides, and step-by-step instructions for reporting different types of financial crimes. "I want to turn this into a non-profit when I turn 18, she told me one evening while working on her latest project, something that provides free protection services to families who can't afford private consultants. That's a beautiful goal, Emma. It started because of what Dad did to us, but it's become something bigger. There are so many families out there being victimized by people they trust. One evening in late spring, I was reading in the living room when I heard Emma on a video call in her room. I paused outside her door, listening to her gentle voice. "I know it's scary discovering that your mother has been using your college fund," she was saying, "but you're going to be okay. I'm going to help you protect what's left and make sure this doesn't happen again." I realized she was talking to another teenager, probably someone whose family was being destroyed the same way ours had been. Emma had become a lifeline for children whose parents had betrayed them. "The most important thing to remember," Emma continued, "is that this isn't your fault. Adults are supposed to protect children, not steal from them. When they don't do their job, we have to protect ourselves." I walked away from her door with tears in my eyes, not from sadness, but from overwhelming pride. Mark had tried to break us, but instead he'd forged something unbreakable. Emma had transformed her pain into purpose, her trauma into a mission to protect other families. The next morning, Emma appeared at breakfast looking like any other 8th grader, but I knew better now. Underneath that normal teenage exterior was someone extraordinary, someone who'd taken the worst thing that had ever happened to her and turned it into a force for good. "Ready for school?" I asked, kissing her forehead. "Always," she said, shouldering her backpack. "Oh, and Mom? I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart." As I watched her walk to the bus stop, I realized that Mark's betrayal hadn't destroyed our family. It had revealed what we were truly made of. Emma had won more than justice. She'd won her future and was using it to secure the futures of countless other families. Mark could keep his new life with whatever remained of it. We'd built something infinitely more valuable from the pieces he'd left behind. We'd built hope, and Emma was sharing it with the world. If this story of a 1-2-year-old's digital justice had you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Emma calmly told her father you chose her. So live with her before hanging up. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more incredible family protection stories like this. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.